Hi, I'm Mary Wasertein. I'm a mom of four, a cookbook author, and a tablescape designer. Today, we are going to cook a beautiful meal that's highlighting fresh herbs. I love this meal because it's a great make-ahead dish and it's sure to please everybody. We're making an herb roasted spatchcock chicken with a composed salad that's going to have a creamy ranch dressing that, of course, is herbed. What's great about all these components is that they can be made ahead. If you're not familiar with what spatchcocking is that you take a bird and you remove its backbone, making it flat and it cooks more evenly. Today, we're going to use loads of dill and parsley and butter and fill the skin of the bird with that and roast it. The composed salad is made up of all different veggies and again can be pre-made, which is wonderful. And then finally, our ranched herb dressing. What I really love about this menu is the fact that you can have it made the night before. So when your guests come over, all you have to do is sit down and chat and enjoy yourself. It's always wonderful to be a guest at your own party. Alrighty, so let's get this chicken going. So this was spatchcocked last night, and I'm going to demonstrate again what spatchcocking is. Spatchcocking is when the backbone of the bird has been removed. And I have the chicken resting on paper towels. The reason I do that is it sucks up, it helps absorb all the juices and dry it up a little bit, which is going to make sure that we get a crispier roast bird. So as you can see, the backbone has been removed. You can save that for stock if you want, or you don't have to. You can flip this over. We're going to tuck the bird's wings underneath right here. Oh, and there's one thing I forgot to do, which is super important, which is, let me grab some paper towels so I can make sure my hands are not messy, is preheat your oven to 450. So over here, preheating my oven to 450. All set to go. The cook time on the chicken is going to be 45 minutes. So back to our spatchcock bird. So here we have it. It's all set to go except for this little wing, which is being tricky and challenging, like my children. So now what we want to do is work on our composed butter. And effectively, all you're doing is taking a softened stick of butter, which we have right here, and adding it into it. I recommend doing this with a spatula. It's actually the best way to do it because they're very malleable and you can get everything in here. We're using a stick of butter, which may seem like a lot, but when it's all kind of like spread around the bird, it ultimately really isn't. So you've got to look at it like a stick of butter per person, not a stick of butter per person, but a quarter of a stick of butter per person. Well, not even that much. That even sounds like a lot. So we want to get the fresh herbs in there. And then we're going to also want to add in salt and pepper because that's super important to giving flavor to the bird. All right, so be generous in the amount of salt. I would say I'm putting about 1.5 tablespoons. That may seem like a lot, but keep in mind that we're using this to season the whole bird. Now work in some fresh brown pepper. Fantastic. And we're just gonna mush this all up together until it gets into a paste. Seems like my butter is not quite as soft as I would like, which is fine. All right, let's be candid. Let's just go into it with our fingers because that's what's gonna happen over here. All right, so we're walking through, mushing up the butter, getting all the herbs and salt incorporated in. Don't forget, one thing that people always forget and they get shy about is using your hands when you're cooking. Listen, it's just you and yourself in the kitchen, so it doesn't really matter. And this way you know that it's all gonna get incorporated in properly. Okay. All right, so we have our bird. The other trick about getting a bird to roast properly is making sure that your bird is at room temperature. Makes a big difference. And by that, you're not putting your health at risk, but you want to make sure that your bird has lost that chili edge because you're going to get a less even cooking to it, and that's not fabulous. Okay, so now we have our composed butter, and that is all in there. Perfect. There we go. So this is the part which can make people who are a little squeamish have a hard time. You know, listen, you're not offending the bird at all. You want to work your hands underneath the skin. You want to make sure that you don't tear the skin because effectively what you're doing is you're creating a cavity or an area for the herbed butter to go. So if you can just loosen up the skin all over the bird, the more flavor you can get in there, the better it's going to taste. There we go. Alrighty, so that's all done. And now comes the tricky part. Well, not really, but just takes a little bit of patience, is you're going to divide your butter into half. And so half of it's going to go in half a bird, and then the other half goes in the other half. So you're going to push this up in here, and you can use your fingers to flatten it out. Trust me, once you've done this once, you won't think about it again. And it's really, what's also wonderful about this too, is it gives a great when the herbs cook underneath the skin, you have the butter, which is effectively basting, and then you have the herbs, which are going to show through the skin. So it's really a beautiful way to get your bird up and running. There we go. So one of the tablescapes that I did today, which is kind of fun, you'll see, is using one colorway to set the table. Now, since we're using herbs, I thought it'd be fun to use a tablescape that was in my favorite color, which is green. And you're gonna see is that working with one color can actually be really fun. And it's also kind of nice that we're having an herby lunch, and then all that color is gonna carry over into our tablescape. And I think that makes a big difference. All right, you can see we're kind of like slowly working it in. You could even look at it like giving the bird a butter massage, if it makes it a little more palatable for you. Circling back on spatchcocking, if you're not familiar with it, I suggest that you use your butcher. And I will say, I always say this, is that the butcher at the supermarket is one of the most underutilized resources that's out there. They're really amazing and they're happy to help, which is fantastic. And you can use them for all different types of things. So here we go. So we have a little bit of this left. You can see some of the skin is pulled up, and we'll just keep kind of tucking it into little different crevices. There's really no wrong answer here. Perfect. You just basically don't want to waste whatever is going on. That's really, really important. Okay. There we go. Looking good. Really looking good. So this is all over. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to wash my hands, because when you're handling raw poultry, also before I wash my hands, I will say you're going to want to there is a little bit of this residual in here, and it's good stuff. Like, you took the effort to do it. You took the effort to make sure that all your herbs were chopped and incorporated into your butter. So maybe just continue on with your chicken massage, because at the end of the day, this is just going to make it taste better. Perfect. Alrighty, so let me go wash my hands as we get this ready. We are on our way to a wonderful herb chicken, making sure that my hands are clean and not going to make anyone sick, which is super important. All right, fabulous. Now, the one thing you really want to make sure of when you're working with chicken is it's seasoned enough. And I know that we already added salt and pepper to the buttered herb ingredients over here, but just add another sprinkle. And then the other thing you want to do is you want to make sure that your underside is seasoned, because you are going to have a ton of flavor on top, but you want that to permeate through. We're going to give this a nice twist of the black pepper. And then I'm going to share with you one of my favorite tricks that I do when I am roasting a chicken is, some of that butter escaped. Just put it right back under. Okay, look, you take a lemon. I would recommend getting a really sharp knife. This is one that my husband bought me years ago from Bridge Kitchenware, which I don't think is around, sadly. So you want to slice this into even slices. So the plan is we're going to put this underneath the bird, which is great. And what it's going to do is all that lemony good flavor is going to roast and release all of its essential oils and juices and everything directly into the bird. And it's really, what's nice about it is it's not going to get, hair in my mouth. It's not going to add a bitter, pithy flavor. It's just going to add a really lovely citrus flavor, which I really, really enjoy. All right, hands are clean. We are going to put this chicken in the oven. Here we go. And just a reminder, at 450 for 45 minutes. All right. And while that is roasting, we're going to go to the segment that I did on decorating your tablescapes in one colorway, which is a great way to get a coherent look to something using all different textures and patterns and color.
One of my favorite tricks when I'm designing a table is to pick one color. We all have a favorite color, and we tend to lean towards that when we're buying pieces, so it makes it easy to assemble in all different shades. I have gone with green today, which is absolutely one of my favorites. It's bright, it's kicky. I feel like it works for all 4 seasons. And what you have to remember is it doesn't have to be the same shade of green. And that's really important, because that's what's going to add depth and interest to your table. I love the trick of using just one color to set the table. It enables you to get all of your different pieces together in that colorway. I'm a huge fan of green, so I have loads of that. Now I thought I'd show you, break it down, how I did the table. For the basis, I used a green and white lattice tablecloth, and on top of that, I placed a green placemat that has this wonderful ribbon woven detailing around it. Now I want to make sure that I'm not going to lose that detail, so I made sure to find a green plate that would sit within that. And this effectively happens now as the placemat is acting like a frame. Although the iCat does not have the same bright greens that we're seeing elsewhere, it still has a wonderful selection of greens and works beautifully with everything there. For this meal, I will be serving a soup. And what I love about a covered soup tureen is the fact that you can either serve a hot or a cold soup in there, put it on the table, and then call your guests. Notice that these two pieces are from the same set. What's lovely about that is they indicate they're part of the same course. And so when they're finished, you just clear this away, which is perfect. And then our guests have their dinner plates, which is lovely. The glasses right here are both done in green. Note the different kicky little patterns on them that make them special and different. But you could certainly use a more simple glass. I just like having as much texture and pattern when I'm using one color. I've used these green ceramic tureens, which are adorable and fun and something interesting for your guests to look at. Again, one of the great tricks with setting a table is pick one color. Pick your favorite color, whatever that may be, and just keep layering it on. And I will say that sometimes when I feel like I haven't quite gotten there, I just add another piece. In regards to the flowers, what I've done is I've picked everything. We're not going to just use green flowers because it would get a little redundant, and there certainly is white on this table. I would look at white as the secondary color on this table. So the flowers that I've gone with are all in the green and white family, and I've used, which I really love to do, is a soup tureen as a centerpiece. What's lovely about a soup tureen is that it's aesthetically pleasing. There's something different about it, and it's not what you expect. I like to stay away from clear glass vases. I mean, they definitely serve a purpose, but this is just another point of interest on the table, which I'd love to see. I've made sure that I'm keeping my water pitchers, my beloved Glug Glugs, in the same green colorway. I'd like to point out that they don't match, and I'm using two different greens in the same design aesthetic on the table, and I think that's really kind of fun and different. So to go back, we've used one color here, green, but what we have done is utilize all the greens that are available to us. So we have dark hunter greens, we have Kelly greens, we have yellow greens, which are picked up in the little decorative cabbages, which I didn't mention, but this is another one of my favorite things to do. I love to collect ceramic cabbages. We all have our thing, and this is one of mine. And I think these are so much fun to put these on the table. They're strictly decorative. They don't serve any other purpose other than to be pretty. But sometimes that's nice to have at a table. And it's also nice to have, it's not just solid flowers. So there's a little bit of different things for people to look at and catch their eye. You want your guests to be engaged at the table, to be inviting, to be a place that lingers. And I feel that this table really does that. They're all different things for your guests to look at and be engaged by. And it's also a comfortable table where nothing is too high so they can talk to you. So think about what your favorite color is and use that to set your next table.
Hi, well, I hope you enjoyed that. And again, I love picking one color and facing my table around that. You always seem to have more of the colors you prefer. I mean, I certainly leaned into green and blue, as you can see. So now as our chicken is in the oven and it's getting happy and juicy and tender and crispy and all those wonderful things at once, we are gonna make our creamy ranch dressing with fresh herbs. Now, ranch dressing always makes me think of my little sister Lizzie, who adores ranch dressing. And so she really likes this recipe, so then I know it's a winner. To start with, I'm gonna use a clove of garlic, which I'm gonna mince. It doesn't have to be perfectly minced, it just has to be, you don't want big chunks. No one wants a big chunk of garlic in anything they're doing. And you know, the other trick that I love is that if you find a piece of garlic that's a little bigger than you like, you can just mush down on it. There we go. Listen, this is happy, cozy comfort food. This is not perfection. All right, so we've got one clove of garlic. To that, some of it tried to run away. We'll add it there. And I'm just realizing that I probably want to use a whisk. All right, here's a good one to get it going. So into this is gonna go a cup of mayo. Now, I'm a big fan of using low-fat mayo. My husband's eating it for years and had no idea until I told him. So there's really, honestly, I mean, it may be a little richer and a little more decadent, but it's just kind of a nice way to be a little healthier when you're doing something that's a little naughty. You also want people to feel like they can be generous in the amount of dressing they're using. To this, I'm gonna add sour cream, because sour cream and mayo make everything really lovely and wonderful. Here we go. That's gonna go in. Make sure we get all that sour cream in. We don't want to waste it. Okay, and then we have on here, we are gonna add a teaspoon of garlic powder. I hate these tops. I don't know how you feel about them, but they drive me insane. I can eyeball a teaspoon, and it's all to taste. So I'm just gonna, to me, that's like a little bit of a teaspoon right there. Perfect. And so you are using garlic powder and fresh garlic, which may seem overkill, but they actually have very different tastes. We're gonna now add an equal amount of, again, these tops, which drive me totally bonkers. All right, we'll keep the top on. We wanna do about a teaspoon again of onion powder, which has a kind of a sweet undertone to it, which I really enjoy. We're gonna put in some salt, which is super tasty and always adds things brightens things up. Some fresh ground black pepper. All right, and this is where you start getting this like real power punch of flavor. Here we have a lemon. And what's nice about ranch dressing is it's a really bright taste, and we want that because we want it to cut through the richness of the chicken and then the various vegetables we're gonna use in the composed salad. I'm using the juice of half a lemon. Just make sure it's all in there. And make sure you don't have any seeds. That's a real bummer if you're eating, a nice dressing and you have that. This is what I always find interesting is that you're gonna have the lemon juice and then you're also gonna add in, I would say about a teaspoon and a half of cider vinegar. I love cider vinegar. It's one of those tastes to me that has there's a little bit of kind of like a sweetness to it. It's not overwhelming like a balsamic. Then this tends to be a little bit of a thicker dressing. So when you start getting everything together like this, you're gonna gauge how thick you want it. And I like it so that you basically wanna be able to pour it evenly over your vegetables and your chicken or bread or anything else that you're in the mood for. And let's do that. Okay, so that needs to be a little thinned out. As you can see, it's a little thick. So what I'm gonna do is add kind of a teaspoon of milk at a time. A lot of recipes call for buttermilk, and you can definitely do that. All right, here we go. Okay, I think I'm gonna make that a little thinner. I really want this to be something that flows. It doesn't seem goopy. All right, so a little bit more. Whenever you're cooking anything, a lot of this, different ingredients and different brands could be a little different. So you kind of want to play with it, what you like. And then also you may like a different style ranch than I'm making. So you might get a little thicker. All right, and because we're doing these wonderful fresh herbs today, and this is one of the things that I absolutely adore, is I have chopped parsley and dill, which is one of my favorite herbs, and I add it to everything. And it seems like a lot, but it's actually a really nice bright amount. And I would say collectively, this is about a quarter cup of fresh herbs that are in there. And that's really gonna brighten it up and make it a little different. Okay, here we go. Let me see if I can find something to taste this with. It's really important to adjust your seasoning. And what I find sometimes is, all right, I have a mega spoon over here. I'll use this to taste it. Perfect. All right, that's pretty spot on. I think you could use a little bit more salt. Great. All right. There we go. So our dressing is all done, and we're gonna put this to the side. Now is the time to do our composed salad. And so I'm pulling out of the fridge is some arugula, which is a great bed for this right now. So composed salad is effectively exactly what it sounds like. A medley, I would think, of different vegetables and things that are going on right there. Put that over there. I love radicchio. It has a beautiful color to it. It's a little bit brighter. You pour it out like this. Just kind of chomp down on it. There you go. And then the way I do my radicchio is slice it down the middle. And so we kind of have these wedges which are gonna go. And look at this as the base to our composed salad. And you know what? I think I'm gonna do a little more. There's really no perfect answer to a composed salad. It's whatever you wanna do. And remember, the great thing about this is that a lot of this stuff is made it can be all made the night before. All right, so we're gonna pick this up. We wanna make sure that you see the radicchio and the arugula. Now here I have bunches of asparagus that I blanched. And what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna put them at different parts on the platter, which I think is kind of a nice way to break it up so it's not all in the same pile right there. You know, this is where you get to be a little bit of artistic about how you're gonna lay it out. I mean, remember that people always eat with their eyes first, and so these are great. Just quickly about blanching, it can be a little bit of a production if you think too much about it, but what I like to do is get about a big pot of water that's salted and boiling, and they're heavily simmering, and I put my whole head of cauliflower and my whole bunch of asparagus in there. And then what I do is I pull them out and then I let them, they go into an ice bath, and it stops it, and it doesn't mean I have to break it down until I'm just ready to put everything together. I have some new potatoes, which have really different colored skins to them, which I think adds a little point of interest. Again, I'm kind of going for a gritty pattern. This guy ran away. Let's get him back. Perfect. All right. So we have these guys running down the middle, which is great. And then, oops, I think I'm missing some of my veggies. I am. Here we go. I knew there was more guys in here. Okay, great. So we have cucumbers, which we can just add in bunches right there, which is great. There we go. Tomatoes, perfect. Coming along. And then you can even start doing the tomatoes in different spots. It doesn't have to be totally matchy-matchy. The other thing that I had tucked away in here, which I'm a big fan of, and actually my children love, are radishes. And I just want to point out when you're doing radishes, is that you don't necessarily have to cut their tails off. I think they're actually kind of fun looking. Great, so here we go. And I'm gonna do these more kind of like loosely across and not such a big grouping. I have some roasted red peppers, which are, I bought these, they're jarred and I drained them. And I think I want to do that in a concentrated area. So here we have red peppers right here. And then let's do another stripe of red peppers next to our cucumbers. Perfect. And as you can see, this is kind of like piling up and there's different flavors. And keep in mind, again, everything here was pre-done ahead of time. So there's nothing that's going to be, it's going to take a bunch of time for you. So you can have this, you can even make this salad ahead of time and just put it into the fridge. Now, the cauliflower was all blanched, so I can actually just pull it apart. And there we go. Perfect. All right, and those are going to be a little bit bigger chunks. And then I also have this purple cauliflower that's here as well. And I'm just going to break off pieces. Perfect. And as you can see, it's coming together and it's turning into this like vibrant, gorgeous thing, which is really exciting. Perfect. And then the hard-boiled eggs, which are going to come on and they're going to add a little bit of color and pop. Here we go. And as you can see, the salad is coming together. It's really pretty exciting. Here we go. Excellent. And then as a finishing piece, I like to put some olives on top. Look at that, and some capers. All right, so this is all done. And what I'm going to do now is pull our chicken out of the oven, which is ready to go. Now, keep in mind, we're doing fresh herbs, so I want to carry that over. Woo! That is a hot chicken. Woohoo! All right, hopefully we don't smoke the joint out. And I'm going to use this beautiful platter, which I love because it's vibrant and colorful. And then carrying through on the herbs, I'm actually just going to grab a whole bunch of fresh herbs if I had a helpful. There we go. And what we're going to do is, I love this whole technique of putting fresh herbs underneath. It's a bed. Perfect. And then you just want to find a spatula. Sometimes it's better to use two spatulas. These are two larger ones. And look how the fresh herbs are showing on the bird, which is pretty fabulous. And as I said, I like to serve this room temperature. This guy is hot. Here are his lemons. Let's not lose those. But if you were serving it for friends, you could certainly have this made ahead and let it be served at room temperature. Alrighty, so we have our composed salad, which I think is looking pretty beautiful. Let's move some of this stuff off. Here we go. It's always nice to have a clean board. And we have our beautifully roasted herb chicken. And then let's get that creamy ranch dressing out. That was so tasty. And This is kind of a very pretty blue and white gravy boat that we can put it in. And this, again, I'm looking at this dressing and I want it to really pour. So let's add a touch more milk. Again, you could use buttermilk if you wanted to, just so that it really pours out of that gravy boat. I really wish you could smell how this chicken smells. I mean, it's one of those comfort foods for me that I always default to, that always is so good. And I mean, look at the crispy skin, look at the nice, beautiful herbs under there. I mean, that is a really wonderfully tasty and moist. All right, we're getting in there. Perfect. So here we have it. This is a lovely lunch to serve to your friends. What's great about it is it can be made ahead. All the vegetables were blanched ahead. There's different flavors and different textures. We have the bird, which is beautifully roasted and spatchcocked. Don't be afraid of spatchcocking. Again, it's something your butcher can help you with. And a reminder with the herbs, it's great to put your bird on top of it because that means it's getting all the flavors underneath it. I'll also do this trick when I rest meat, is that I'll do a bed of thyme. So all those essential oils and the herbs actually start to be released and get into your food, which is amazing. Let's move this away so we can kind of recap what we did over here. One thing you want to focus on when you're doing a composed salad like this is the use of color. So we have the purple cauliflower, the green cauliflower, the roasted peppers, the potatoes, which are the different colors, the asparagus, which I love this time of year because it's so seasonal. And that's one thing you can also focus on for your composed salad is the seasonality of the whole thing. You really want to think about that. I mean, I look at this as a lovely kind of springtime composed salad because there's all these things in here that make me think about the spring. I also love radishes, which we can get year round, but they add a nice bright sharpness to it. The cucumbers, which are always a crowd pleaser. They're a big fan of my pug Jeff's. He sits there and barks the whole time I'm cutting them. Fortunately, he's not here right now because otherwise he'd be going bonkers over this composed salad because it's his cup of tea. And then we have the Kalamata olives. And looking at this, I think I'm gonna add a few more capers because I like that briny taste to it. I make a lot of pickled onions and vegetables, and so that's something else I would add on. We can tuck in some more olives. These are the fitted ones. Well, I hope that you guys have enjoyed the recipe today. I'm Mary Wasertein, and this has been Cooking in Tablescapes with Mary Wasertein.